welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're getting into something quite specific, but really important in healthcare, safety pen needles.
Exactly. These are those single-use needles for injector pens, for things like insulin,
Mm,
but designed with safety features.
right, to stop those accidental needle stick injuries. Nasty things.
Definitely. And we're basing our discussion today on a pretty detailed report, the Global Safety Pen Needles Market Report 2025.
Okay, so we'll be digging into that, looking at market size, growth, where things are happening geographically, basically what's driving this whole area.
That's the plan. We want to pull out the key info, understand where this market's headed, and why it's becoming such a big deal in healthcare.
Especially for people managing conditions like diabetes, I imagine. So the mission is to give you the essential picture of this market.
Okay, let's dive in. What are we talking about in terms of scale and where's it going?
Well, starting with 2025, the global market is already pretty substantial. We're looking at USD 400 to 750 million.
$4.75 billion.
Right.
Not small. Not at all. But the really interesting part is the forecast. By 2033, the report projects that number will more than double.
Double. Wow.
Yeah, hitting USD 10482.04 million, over $10 billion.
Okay, that is a massive leap. The report gives a CAGR, right? A growth rate.
It does, a compound annual growth rate of 10.4% between 2025 and 2033. That really underlines the expansion we're talking about.
10% year on year, sustained. That's strong. So what's actually pushing this growth? What are the main drivers?
There are a few big things working together. Firstly, the simple fact that the global population is aging.
More older adults.
Exactly. And with age often comes a higher rate of chronic conditions like diabetes, which need injectable meds.
That makes total sense. Is it just the older population, though?
No, not entirely. The report also highlights the rising prevalence of diabetes itself globally. And importantly, this includes younger people too, even kids.
That's a tough reality. But it does mean more need for injection devices that are, well, safer and maybe easier to handle.
Precisely. And that's where safety pen needles come in. They're often designed to be more comfortable, which helps people stick to their treatment.
Adherence, yeah.
Right. And crucially, they reduce the risk of infection at the injection site. That's vital for long-term health.
And it's not just about the person injecting themselves, is it? What about healthcare staff?
That's another major factor. Think about hospitals, clinics. Needle stick injuries are a serious occupational hazard for nurses, doctors.
A huge workplace safety concern.
Absolutely. So adopting these safety needles directly addresses that risk, protecting staff from potential exposure to bloodborne pathogens. It's a big reason why hospitals are using them more and more.
Okay, so strong drivers all around. Aging population, more diabetes, better safety for patients and staff. Let's look at the map then. How does this break down geographically?
Well, right now, North America is the biggest player. In 2025, they held over 40% of the market.
40%.
Yeah, that translates to about USD 1757.50 million. Their projected growth, though, is a CAGR of 8.8% through to 2033. Still strong, but...
Maybe not the fastest globally. And the U.S. is the bulk of that North American figure.
Oh, definitely. The U.S. market alone was pegged at USD 1386.67 million in 2025. Huge slice.
Okay, what about across the pond in Europe?
Europe's also a major force, over 30% of the global revenue. The 2025 market size was around USD 377.50 million.
And their growth rate?
Projected at 9.4% CAGR, slightly higher than North America's forecast. And within Europe, the UK actually shows a bit more dynamism.
Oh, interesting. How so?
Well, the UK market's projected size is about USD 231.42 million, but its growth rate is expected to be a bit quicker at 10.2% CAGR.
Okay, so North America and Europe are the current giants, but you hinted someone else might be growing faster.
That would be the Asia-Pacific region, APAC. They held around 23% market share in 2025.
About $1.14 billion then.
Exactly, USD 1140.000 million. But here's the key thing. Their projected CAGR is the highest globally, a very strong 13.2% from 2025 to 2033.
13.2%. That is significantly faster. That's where the real acceleration is happening.
It certainly looks that way. Rapid growth potential there.
Which countries are leading that charge in APAC?
China is a massive part of it. Their market was about USD 478.8 million in 2025, growing at a projected 12.7% CAGR.
Still very high.
Very. But India's growth rate is forecast even higher, 15.1%.
15%. Wow.
Wow,
So
yeah.
improving healthcare access, maybe growing diabetes awareness in those huge populations.
That seems to be a major part of the story, yes. It's definitely the region to keep an eye on.
Okay. And the other regions, South America, Middle East, Africa.
They have smaller shares, but still showing solid growth.
Yeah.
South America is over 5% of the market, about USD 180.50 million in 2025, with an 11.1% CAGR.
Brazil leading there, I assume.
Yes, Brazil's the biggest market in South America, around USD 77.25 million, growing at 11.7%.
Good.
The Middle East is smaller, around 2% share, USD 190 million, but also growing fast at 11.7% CAGR. South Africa is the largest market within that region.
So growth really is happening everywhere, just at different speeds, with APAC really pushing the pace.
That's a good summary, yeah.
All right, let's zoom in a bit more. The report breaks things down further, doesn't it? Like by needle length. What's the trend there?
It does, and the report suggests that the 4-millimeter needles are likely to be the most common choice.
4 millimeters. Why those specifically?
It generally comes down to comfort. They tend to cause less pain, which is a big plus, especially, for kids or maybe older adults who might be a bit more sensitive.
Makes sense. Patient comfort is key for regular injections. But is there another length that's showing strong movement?
Yes, actually, the 5-millimeter length is pegged as the fastest growing segment.
Interesting. So not the shortest, but maybe a sweet spot.
Seems like it. It probably offers a good balance, comfortable enough for most adults, but still ensuring effective delivery of the medication.
Okay, a balance between comfort and efficacy. Got it. Now, what about the types of treatments these needles are used for? The therapies.
Well, no surprise here. Insulin administration is currently the biggest application by far.
Given the diabetes prevalence we discussed.
Exactly. It just reflects how many people rely on insulin therapy. But there's another segment growing really rapidly.
Which one's that?
The GLP-1 segment.
Ah, right. Those are the drugs making headlines not just for diabetes, but also for weight management.
That's them. As GLP-1s become more widely prescribed for blood sugar control and for weight loss, the demand for safe, convenient ways to inject them, like these safety pens, is just soaring. It's really fueling growth in that therapy area.
So insulin is the base, but GLP-1s are adding significant momentum.
Okay.
And who is actually using these needles? Where are they being used? The end users.
According to the report, long-term care facilities like nursing homes are currently the largest segment.
Why is that, do you think?
Well, you have a high concentration of residents, often elderly or chronically ill, needing regular injections, frequently insulin. So the need for safe, efficient administration by staff is really high in those settings.
Yeah, safety and efficiency would be absolutely critical there. Yeah. Okay, so that's the biggest segment now. Which one's growing fastest?
That would be acute care facilities. So think hospitals, emergency departments.
Okay, why the rapid growth there?
It probably points to a growing focus on needing quick and safe medication delivery, even in those really high-pressure, urgent situations. Minimizing risk is key everywhere, even when time is critical.
So hospitals and emergency settings are increasingly adopting these safety features. Makes sense. Now, every market has its challenges, right? And its emerging trends. What does the report say about factors that might hold things back or new developments shaping the future?
On the restraint side, one potential issue is product recalls. If a regulatory body issues a recall.
Yeah, that can damage trust.
Exactly. It hits the company's reputation, and it can make consumers and even healthcare providers wary. That can definitely slow down market growth.
Understandable. Anything else acting as a brake?
It's an interesting one, actually. The report mentions the increasing awareness or maybe diagnosis of trypanophobia.
Fear of needles.
Yes. It's a real psychological barrier for some people, and it can impact their willingness to use any kind of injectable medication, even the safer pen needles.
That's a really human factor to consider. It's not just about the tech. So what about the positive side? What trends are pushing things forward?
Technology, definitely. We're seeing ongoing innovation, things like needles that retract automatically after use, making them even safer.
Oh, neat.
And also the development of smart pen needles, connected devices.
Smart pens, what do they do?
They can track dosage, injection times, maybe even connect to apps. Helps with adherence and gives patients and doctors better data.
That sounds really useful. Any other tech shifts?
The report also touches on alternative delivery methods like microneedles. Tiny needles that could make injections less invasive in the future. That's more emerging tech, though.
Microneedles. Fascinating. Okay. And what about broader factors?
A big one is just the general improvement in healthcare infrastructure globally, especially in developing countries.
Better hospitals, clinics, more access.
Right. As healthcare systems improve and access expands, more people gain access to advanced medical devices like these safety pen needles. It naturally drives uptake.
So better healthcare systems mean more adoption of safer tech. Makes sense. Okay, finally, who are the main companies in this space? What's the competitive landscape like?
It's pretty competitive, actually. You've got a mix of big global players and some more specialized regional companies.
Who are some of the names mentioned?
The report lists companies like Becton, Dickinson, and Company BD, a big name,
Uh-huh.
MontMed Inc., Ultimed Inc., Arcray USA, McKesson Medical Surgical, Lynx Medical Products, and Allison Medical Inc. A fair few players.
Seems like a healthy mix.
Yeah.
Any recent examples of what these companies are doing, like new products or market moves?
Yeah, the report gives a couple of recent examples. Terumo Corporation, for instance, launched their Fine Glide needles in India back in September 2022.
Targeting that growing Indian market we talked about.
Exactly. And Roche Diabetes Care India introduced their ACCU fine pen needles in May 2022, focusing on comfort and minimizing pain.
So continuous innovation, new product launches, expansion into key growth regions. Sounds like a very active market.
Definitely dynamic.
Okay, well, this has been a really thorough deep dive. To wrap things up, what are the main takeaways we should leave everyone with from this report?
I think the headline is really significant growth. The safety pen needle market is expanding substantially, driven mainly by more diabetes cases worldwide and this real push for safer injection methods.
Safer for both patients and the healthcare workers.
Absolutely. And while North America leads in size right now, keep your eye on Asia Pacific for the fastest growth moving forward.
Right. We also saw how different needle lengths, like the 4 millimeter and 5 millimeter, cater to different needs comfort versus that balance point, and how use is spread across end users, with long-term care being the biggest currently, but acute care, like hospitals, growing the quickest.
Precisely. And even though there are potential hurdles like recalls or, needle phobia, the overall trend is strongly positive, pushed by tech advances like smart pens and just better healthcare access globally.
It really is fascinating how such a small device has such a big impact on managing health and improving safety. Okay, so a final thought for you listening. Given all this rapid tech development and the focus on the patient experience, how do you think future drug delivery innovations might shake up this market even more? What could change the game for people needing regular injections? And are there other factors, maybe economic or social ones we didn't dive deep into, that could really influence how widely these safety needles get adopted around the world?
Yeah, lots to think about there.
Definitely some interesting questions to ponder. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.